shields don't tend to have a real hard defined edge. What I found is that some people were stopping at the beginning of it, and then the further they went in, some people, especially folks that I know who have a warrior ring, as they came in, they didn't notice it until a little bit further in. And so that was interesting to me. And then Jay and I did my invisible thing, and that was something else completely.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, definitely, I started looking away, almost right away, because there was clearly something else to look at it.
Anyone like Douglas Adams?
And there was a full tingling effect, which usually tells me.
Somebody else's problem.
Something just happened.
Yeah, it's like that. So that's what I.
Yeah. I mean, similar to yours, mine, it's not necessarily a hard edge, and it is very diffuse on the, but there's sort of like layers of density, and
Yeah,
it's like increasingly
exactly.
dense the further you go in. So I noticed, like what I would think of as like the outermost, most diffuse layer, some people weren't quite catching on to that, but like once they hit like where it sort of gets thick and off, they noticed. So I switched it up to just, literally just be like as close as I could make it, which turned out to be not as close as, like probably about that close. And I'm like, well, I can't actually get that any tighter in, so that's a thing. But most people caught that, and a few, I'm trying to think of who. I was concentrating on it enough that I wasn't identifying people by people. There was one person who was, it was almost like shifting as they were, like there was some give and take with them. Anyway, so there's that.
I realized whenever I started that I forgot to take my ring off. So the first couple people who came up to me were like, oh, I feel like it's like right here. And I'm like, no, that's totally not right. And then I went, oh, shit. And my shields are very close. They're very close to me because part of what I naturally do is bring people in. And Jay actually said he felt whenever I took the ring off that it almost swirls in and pulls you closer to me whenever I am not, when I have my most natural shields up. They actually bring people closer to me. Counterintuitive to a shield, but there is a line of demarcation where they're not going to cross, where it becomes very solid. But that's that level of counselor attraction that's working in the natural energy barrier that I have. So when people would come toward me and they would stop about here, that's honestly more their shield interacting with me and them being uncomfortable because they're bouncing off of me rather than, and you can just come up and hug me, that's how close they are. Please don't come up and hug me.
So Sarah, you do shields as opposed to filters, or you do both?
Both. My shields tend to be a lot more transparent, less solid. So if we're looking at the difference between the two of us, you're going to be much more solid than I am. And I use much more ephemeral, more glamour things to shield.
Yeah, I'm using the word shield in this case because it is much more what you would think as a permeable field, right up until what I would consider body armor. Like there are a few layers of things that are hiding things or protecting things, and those are much, first of all, really close, partly so that they're not as noticeable. But yeah, all that nimbus around, I think of less as a shield, but it takes up about the same space and it is the same kind of personal bubble.
I found that I did a similar thing to where I had like levels of thickness, and I like to sometimes bring it in past that comfortable social distance that everyone is so used to, like you were saying, people that stand too close and hover. There's a few people that I brought in past that point to see if they would approach,
Yep.
and it was some good results. I had somebody that came right up to it.
So I think of my shields surprisingly very much like Sarah's. Shocked. I actually think of my shields as being under my skin, so they're protecting the essential bits, but skin can rub off, that's fine. I did get a hug out of the exercise, and thank you. But but I also, so when our friend Kat draws energy bodies, she draws me with like tendrils coming out, and a few people picked up on those. I don't think of them as shields; they're more like they're the welcome to my space. This is what this space is like. And a couple people picked up on that too, so that was fun. But yeah, I didn't feel uncomfortable, and I sort of wondered the same thing that you were wondering of like,
Yeah.
when people stop and it's well outside my shield, is like, I wonder if they're just, that's where their shield is. And
Yeah.
now they know, because I wasn't doing anything.
Oh, now I need to talk. Yeah, okay. Yeah, it was interesting. I mean, I think that mine are kind of like bouncy, it feels like, because people be like, oh, and then they'd like step a little bit, and then they lean, and then they'd lean back, and yeah, but then they'd be like, oh, is this where it is? And it was kind of cool, because I'm like, yes, yes it is.
And then the 1% who asks is not hugged all the
Yeah, so that happened, and it's true. I do get a lot of hugs, because even though I have shields, people seem to want to be within them because they feel comfortable, so I'm there for people, but I'm not a touchy person, actually.
I think for me, shielding is so natural that it takes more effort for me to let people get close enough to me, but people love hugging me for whatever reason. I've become like this little miniature that people want to pick up and walk around with. I don't get it because I'm like a little chihuahua, literally. But for me to be able to play, I feel that I can pull them in a lot easier when they're people that I know that I'm comfortable. If I'm comfortable with your energy, then for me there's that trust. But usually with people I don't know, it takes a little bit more concentration to be able to let them closer. So.
Anyone have any observations after hearing the explanations of what it is that we perceive that we do versus what you perceived?
This is kind of my first time feeling people's shields and energies like very consciously, I guess. So when I go up to each one of the people, I'm thinking shield, like something hard, and it's gonna be this one defined thing. And then what I found going through, like you were the first person, you had this very clear, like, oh, this is big, okay, cool, like sharp, hard edge. And then there were others, like a girl with awesome hair, yes. So you like, I went into your like field, and it was like, it's like fairies. Is this your shield? I don't know, is this a shield?
It's a little on the
So I think a learning experience for me was learning people's, like, there are layers beyond the shield and what people are permissible or what they allow, but they still give off that. And then once you get closer, it becomes more dense or whatever they have. So it's cool.
So, just a, I guess, general question for all of you. Kind of like what Jade said, when you're comfortable with other people's energy, you're more likely to kind of like draw them in. Is that something you all experience? Like, I guess like Sarah, you and I know each other, so are you more likely to like bring me closer because you know me, or like, I guess your shields are.
I'm a bad example because I have strangers come up to me and like get uncomfortably close all the time.
Bad example, like for like Michelle, your shield, you sit out here, and so like for you, like like Sarah, you are more likely to bring her in closer.
For me, it depends on, I'm working them a lot more, like, I recognize it as part of my job to allow people into that bubble. If I'm not working, O'Leary is one of the few people who can be inside those shields and not have me just be like, bitch, no, go. In my own private space, like it's layers upon layers upon layers, and like, each room is its own thing, the house is its own thing, and past that, everybody can just fuck off.
But some interesting things have happened recently when we go out in the world together, because people approach me.
Yeah,
and they all seem to approach in a very good mood.
Yeah,
and like that dude on the highway today. He's like,
yeah.
Great stickers.
That was just his Michigan way of flipping you off.
Really happy. No, I was thinking
Still
like,
behind.
I watched this happen where something about the aura that she carries around herself tends to make her more approachable. People are more inclined to agree with her or give her things.
It's a glamour.
Yeah, it's totally glamour. Where like, if I'm not by myself, people are either like, or, grabbing the small children out of the way, or just
Well, it's kind
like,
of like a walking thunderstorm.
yeah, and so like there's a very different energy that I give off. And while you mitigate that a little bit, even if I'm into just the, oh, I'm out here because I have to fucking deal with people, got her, and you've got the whole angry thing going around. She's there, and everybody's just like, let's go talk to that one.
See, that would be great, because people approach me and apparently my energy doesn't say, hey, be happy. It says, please tell me your most intimate, embarrassing secret.
Like Drax.
Yeah.
I have a question. Can I rent her to go shopping, so I can go shopping and they'll talk to her?
She doesn't like
Sorry,
shopping.
yeah, shopping's a hard limit, I can't do that.
I'll just put you up at the
I do
store
all
and
the
talk to
shopping,
you by
if I
shop.
get out of my way, I buy my stuff out of it.
If I could add on to your question, for me, shielding is very threat-based. So the less I know about someone, the more chance of a threat there is. So it's easier to shield against someone that I don't know. The more I know you, the harder it is to trick myself into trying to shield you. Because if I already know you're not a threat, it's gonna be hard for me to keep that health.
It's very energy efficient though, because you're
Yeah.
just like, I don't need to waste the energy on this, why am I shielding to this person?
Well, there has to be a purpose then, because you said you feel very inclined towards the warrior, and if I understand the warrior mentality, is there has to be a purpose. If there's no purpose to it, like if it's friendly, there's no purpose, but if you're shielding to teach them something, then you have a purpose and you can do it.
Yeah, like this, it's not impossible, it's just how good can I trick myself into
Yeah,
thinking
so it's
that.
about efficiency, and so you basically run off of, if there's a purpose, you do it, if there's not, why do it?
I was gonna say with you, I was there right as you were taking the ring off, and I stopped, and then like, oh well, shit.
Mhm.
Oh, I can be closer now.
Yeah.
Because it kind of went from like, fuck you, don't go past this point, to like, hey.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, yours is very tight. And like with you, I think I got like close and back up because it was
Yeah, you were.
like, yeah, because at some points I could get closer and feel fine. At other points it was like, I'm on the Gravitron, this is cool.
Yeah, no,
And then
there's
it
no
was-
hard edge to mine, like the hard edge is like, in my rib cage.
Yeah. But I
And
could
if
get
you're
closer.
inside my rib cage, we're way more intimate than I wanna be in this setting.
Yeah, it is swirly though. It is, I was.
Yeah, there's always motion.
I had that feeling of like, somewhere between Scrambler and Gravitron sensation, the closer, or like, in that I got.
I thought it was interesting, as I started to walk up, I was very hesitant on actually walking up at all, to be truthfully honest, but when I started to walk up, I kept to the side where I noticed it was more of the tighter, closer shields, and then on the other side it was the big booming, pointy shields, and I'm like, I can't even, let's walk this half crescent and walk back. So, it was a good juxtaposition with the positioning of the individuals, so thank you.
Yeah, I kind of picked that little alcove, so I was somewhat, like, actually let people have a space that they can walk through.
Yeah. It was interesting to sit here and watch the interactions, and I got to watch the sparks off of some shields as the two shields met. Like, that's fun.
No, my accuracy went down as I went. Just like, and okay, I felt a lot of stuff. What are you feeling? Stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that goes to the earlier part of the class, where it's like, there is a point of diminishing return. So like, when people are doing classes and exercises, and like you're spot on for the first 10, 15 minutes, and then like everybody will have a different level of stamina. And by the end, you're just like, egg, bicycle, hot pie.
Are you hungry?
Not for bicycles. Not even for bicycles.
Well, your body and your mind both have stamina, so why not here?
Yeah, I
So-
mean, it totally does.
Any questions on that exercise?
Oh,
Go ahead.
Okay, so earlier you had mentioned this mantra, acknowledge that this is happening and it's real, also a safer place. I was wondering if you had any like, specific sort of functional things for cleansing or clearing or transmuting that you just found really helpful.
Since I'm a very vocal person, like, I can't write lists. I have to say lists out loud to remember things. That's my memory device. That's how I learn, is I'm a listening learner. So doing that mantra out loud is what cuts me off. There's different types of learning. There's visual, listening, kinesthetic, and learning which one of those you are will help you. So if instead of saying it out loud, you have to like write down, this is real, I'll deal with this whenever I'm in a safer space, to break that connection, that's great. If you have to have a piece of jewelry that you're like, okay, I'm gonna spin this ring, acknowledge that this is real and that I'm gonna deal with that later to break the connection. It's all about knowing the way you learn and the way you interact best with the world.
If I'm hearing the question correctly, it's something is overwhelming me, what do I do to deal with that?
Right,
More
or
or less.
just like I work hands-on with people, and so it's like the end of the day, I need to do more than what I'm already doing.
Okay.
To just be me, all by myself. Yeah.
Physical cues are incredibly potent and powerful. It's why like every religious tradition, like water is holy water is cleansing and stuff. So one thing that I'll recommend to people if they have to be in a situation where just there's too much stuff flying around, stepping out of that, just walking into the bathroom to run your hands under the water and intentionally letting it go there, to a full body shower, to just, and literally like you are cleaning yourself off, but you're also cleaning all of that. The way our minds, well, not just the psychic debris, but also when you like move from, say, dreaming, and you remember the dream, and then you're no longer in your room, and it's gone. A part of memory is anchored to places and transitions. So making a conscious transition and making use of that, so that you're no longer giving it the psychic, the emotional energy either, like the mental attention. So all of those things, drifting all of it.
Also, eating helps. I don't like
chocolate cake.
Yeah, you don't just need to be eating, but it's a very physical act that you have to do with this body right here. And if you're like up here because it's overwhelming, and one of the reasons that we always have chocolate here is because if I physically go over there, unwrap a Hershey Kiss, put it in my mouth, chew it and swallow it, that is something that this body has to do. And it tends to bring everything else back down.
And also the intensity of the taste, like allowing yourself to be present and mindful in that moment of that experience is something that is an immersive physical thing for you.
Anybody else? Questions, comments, concerns, things that you have learned?
One thing that, when you were talking about asking for help, and I wanted to say it, but I wanted to wait to see if it came up again, was the opposite. Is I find that there's people who ask for help, and that's all fine and dandy. But then there are people who ask for a lot of help.
Yes.
And I kind of have rules about that of I'll help you, and I'll help you up, and then you need to learn your own lessons when it comes to biting off more than you can chew. And I always used to tell my mom, you're sliding towards the wall. You're kind of sliding towards the wall. You're going to want to hit the brake before you hit the wall. And you kind of have to watch the help you give, because they can learn nothing. They can just learn nothing and just be.
Oh yeah, you can make people dependent on you, which is definitely not the intention.
When they value your perception over theirs.
Yes.
And that's a trap.
Yeah, or people who find basically a guru figure and they expect that person to fix everything for them.
Yep.
And that doesn't teach the person anything. You're not learning if somebody is always doing the stuff for you. You want the training wheels off at some point.
I mean, we've all seen that situation where it goes even beyond someone valuing somebody else's opinion more, they just default to it. Which is like the guru, like the cult leader type people, groups you talked about earlier.
Oh, you know, most of Christianity.
I was about to say, on the opposite end of that spectrum, there's those people that want you to be them that way, and then you have to untangle yourself from that
Yeah.
person.
And so much of it comes down to boundaries, like being, something that you had said at the end of, like, the last half, I was trying to come up with, like, you know, almost like a checklist, or like, here are the things that you should probably do to avoid making the mistakes. And, you know, the first thing would be to, when you're doing experiments, when you're studying stuff and trying to do stuff, first ask yourself, what is my intention with this? What am I trying to accomplish? Is that accomplishment a worthwhile goal? Am I going to learn something from it? Like, what is my motivation with that accomplishment? You know, is this a goal that I should be working toward? Because just because you can doesn't mean you should in all cases. And then doing a little, like, gaming out, like, if this works, what are some of the potential repercussions? And, you know, having put a little thought into it, and I guess it's really the thing, is like doing it with a little more intention rather than just like, you know what would be fun today? Causing a thunderstorm right now. Like, just because.
Like risk reward assessment.
Yeah, a little ritual work assessment, and then accepting that, like, when you are in the actual work itself, micromanaging on that level is not helpful. There are kind of two mental spaces you need to be in. When you're actually doing the work itself, you really have to be incredibly present in it, and not necessarily distracted. So you set those boundaries ahead of time, so that you know, and the final, like, things that I did that were stupid, is, at least when I first started working with this stuff, I found, like, you can create, you know, sacred space, like the circle that you cast, the space that you create in order to do this work, like, you raise the energy in there, like, you make the veils between realities much thinner. And I liked that so much that I just kind of like, well, let's make all of my space like that. Which is not good for me or anybody else, like, if you're living in that all the time. So you want to have clear, defined boundaries within which to work. And even training yourself psychologically to, when I am in this particular part of my home, here is where it is allowable for me to do these particular things. I do a lot of dream work and a lot of spontaneous, like, walking off to people in dreams, and had to develop, you know, clear boundaries for when that was okay, and to whom it was okay. So creating structures and spaces, creating intention, and just being incredibly conscious and reflective, and then allowing yourself to immerse, and then stepping back out of it. So you've got, like, you know, a beginning, a middle, and an end, and doors that you can shut so that you can walk away from it and go back to the mundane world and just process,
Yeah, the processing is really important, giving yourself time, giving your subconscious time to chew things through. Throwing it on a back burner is really super important.
I am a great fan of sleep on it. Like, if,
Yep.
if something has really rocked your world, don't try to act on it. Like, if you have the luxury of not making a decision on it right then, at the very least, sleep on it and allow the deeper part of yourself to, like, really kind of chew through it. Pay attention to what dreams and things appear to you in that case, and then in the next day, from a fresh perspective, revisit it. Especially if it scared you or disturbed you.
No one makes any good decisions when they're tired.
Well, and a lot of these things are exhausting. Like,
Yep.
so here you are, you've just done your thing, and then don't make a big earth-shattering or life-changing decision on the result until you've had some time and some quiet time to reflect. So consider, do, finish, reflect.
Yeah, magic can be considered an intoxicating substance in that regard.
No, it totally is. And some people totally get high on it.
Yeah, that's it.
And they become
Exactly.
kind of like a thrill junkie with it.
And I mean, if you're not gonna make big life decisions if you're drunk or blah, 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 you know.
If your working is something that requires you to relinquish a certain amount of control, say possessory trance states,
Yep.
have a spotter in
Yes.
the same way that you would have a spotter when you were doing any kind of, like, you know, you don't bench press solo if you can help it. Have a spotter, somebody that you can trust, who can hold those boundaries for you under circumstances where you can't.
And have someone hold your kite string, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
That's what I do. It just seems too that, like, with a lot of things, it's moderation that is key, and knowing that happy medium. as humans, we tend to want to go for the path of least resistance, which usually results in an absolute or extreme form of a decision, which is where we tend to make our mistakes early on. Like I want the big proof, I don't want to do the little thing that kind of makes sense, I want to go the extreme.
I think there's a point to that where instead of the path of least resistance, it's we're a bunch of adrenaline junkies. We're gonna find a way to get high, we're gonna find a way to feel good, and sometimes playing with ritual, that can be great, man.
Right.
But, yeah, it's, you get hooked.
And regardless, though, it pushes you to want to make extreme decisions. That's usually, and because absolutes are the easiest thing to follow, they don't require you to think about something in the moment if you follow absolutes. But the further I've gotten into Magic, at least in my path, I've realized recognizing the gray scale area and knowing where I am there and what to do in each of those cases has benefited me far more.
Yeah, everything's a scale, there are no binaries.
Yeah.
And everything is totally cool when you're in the moment and you're in that ritual and the energy's kicking in and everything's great. And I have had the worst hangovers of my life, physical hangovers, when I have not had some alcohol or any kind of mood altering substance, just doing big, energetic, continued work that seemed like it was, I'm gonna live forever, this is the best night. And then you wake up the next day and it's like, did I get hit by a bus? I hurt, everything hurts. And that's whenever you start to learn your limits of maybe don't do that.
I kind of think with driving, if anyone ever questions whether I'm sober enough to drive, then I'm not. And I think that when you talk about having a spotter, that it should be, if the spotter questions you, the default answer is stop.
Yes.
Because I've seen people have spotters that they argue with.
Yeah, you don't want to argue with your spotter. Your spotter is the person who you should be able to trust to tell you the hard thing. And you should have enough awareness to at least go, oh, okay, I guess we're going to stop at least for now. And the other thing I'm going to say is, you're going to make mistakes. All of us have made mistakes, will continue to make mistakes. It is only a tragedy if you don't learn from it. Don't carry guilt around or shame around for things that you've done that went wrong. Try not to. Guilt's useless if it's just, I feel bad about this. That's not helping you. I recognize that this didn't work. How do I do it differently? That's going to help you.
Good place to end it.
It's exactly 7 o'clock.
There we go.
Perfect.
You know I could end on time.
Quick announcement that next month we're meeting here again. We're doing ethics. So we've tried to talk about how to keep yourself safe. Next month we're going to try and talk about how to keep other people safe. And instead of doing practice, we've got a ritual that's called the Day of Sacrifice ritual, in which you acknowledge what's the price you paid to be the person you are today. So we'll do that ritual here. It's always the second Sunday from 5 to 7 p.m. So, here we go.